Can we learn from history? A question senior contributor Ted Koppel ponders from a landmark of our past.
Act like you're happy.
Colonial Williamsburg, capital of the British colony of Virginia, preserved as a sprawling museum. Its mission, that the future may learn from the past. The crown jewels of Williamsburg, Virginia are the interpreters.
If you are a free man between the age of 16 and 60, you are part of the militia.
Interacting with audiences of our day,
So in May of 1776, the
but in the context of a world as they would have known it in their time.
Good day, friends. Good day. How are you faring?
By way of example,
You have no complaints.
Thomas Jefferson.
You must not be Virginians. If not from Virginia, where from? Pennsylvania, land of religious anarchy, welcome. The Ohio Territories, welcome from terra incognita, welcome to civilization.
Upper Canada.
Upper Canada, bonjour. Are you immigrating here?
No.
Well, you should. We are trying to encourage immigrants to immigrate here.
Indeed, immigration is highly controversial in Jefferson's time, but from a radically different perspective than ours. I raised the issue with Kurt Smith, who personifies Thomas Jefferson, and Catherine Pittman, a very feisty Martha Washington.
It was there in 1776. And in the Declaration of Independence, you know that middle bit that everyone skips? In the 27 long train of abuses, Jefferson says he is the king. He's prevented immigration. It is one of the reasons we declare independence.
And how can we improve if we never welcome anything new?
We're not talking about never welcoming anything new.
Mm-hmm.
We need to know who's coming. We need to know whether they are people of good character. Isn't that what the argument is about?
It's the argument in your time. We can just speak to our time.
Oh, cut it out.
You started it.
Yes. I'm in a pissing match with Mrs. Washington, for
I think
God's
I'm going to
sake.
win.
Yes, of course you are.
The interpreters are well advised to merely hint
Sign this very association yourself.
at the issues of our day.
How do you get a body of men to vote for something because it's the right thing to do? I don't know, maybe your politicians do it all the time.
Leaving it to the visitors to grapple with the actual political problems of 2024.
There's certain people that want all the power, like the king. They wanted the power over everybody, and I think that's what's happening now.
This country is steeped in conflict and a fight for liberty, but I truly hope I get to live in a world where I have rights to my body.
Abortion, right? You feel strongly about that.
I do.
The world needs more Marthas.
A subject on which Martha Washington has her own views.
How was the issue dealt with in that time?
Within the home. Birth and a woman's health is a woman's sphere. One does not need to ascertain the services of a midwife if that is the course that you are wishing. These remedies are known amongst female kind. It is known in the indigenous communities, it is known in the African cultures, it is known in our European cultures as well. Be it different herbs, be it different techniques in order to rid oneself of an unwanted child. But generally, they are held within the female sex. But I know that my husband, General Washington, would be in full support of whatever I wanted to do with my own person.
An even more contentious issue then and now, race.
So we honor you. We honor you.
And in Jefferson's day, that meant slavery. Jefferson, despite owning as many as 600 enslaved men, women, and children, put forward legislation to end the practice.
But here's the problem with Bill 51. Bill 51, making the slave trade illegal, has to be presented to a body of men, all of whom own what? Do we see the problem?
Williamsburg chooses to depict slavery in a particularly dramatic and unrepresentative fashion.
Good day, my name is James.
In the person of James Lafayette, an enslaved man who was directed to meet with the Marquis de Lafayette, the French nobleman who served the American cause and whose name James would ultimately adopt.
And he says, "What I want for you to do, James, I want you to sneak across the British lines as a fake runaway slave. Ingratiate yourself with the officers of the British Army, and then report what you hear back to me."
James succeeded so brilliantly that he eventually worked directly under General Lord Cornwallis.
I could take that British intelligence and information and share it with the American side over and over again, which I did.
He faithfully served the American cause, but
I was not to be given my freedom for what I had done for American independence. I was sent back to slavery. I was sent back to Master William for 6 more years.
only after the Marquis de Lafayette petitioned the Virginia legislature for his freedom would it eventually be granted. Given that extraordinary backstory, I wondered how Stephen Seals, who interprets James, deals with taking on that role.
You understand that so many of the issues that we deal with today are connected to many of the decisions that were made in the colonial era. You can see the line from one to the other. And when you come to terms and you see that, I got very depressed and I almost left, I almost quit. If you're a free black person, you have to have your freedom papers on you.
Then a colleague reminded him that he was giving a voice to the ancestors denied one during their own lifetimes.
And the moment she said that to me, I had few issues with the fact that I had to play an enslaved person every single day because I now understood why I was doing it. So I love what I do. It's an honor doing what I do, but I live out in the middle of nowhere for a reason. Because when I'm done here, I want to go and be away from it all. It's how I cope.
When I began, I mentioned that we should avoid seeing factions arise. I specifically mentioned bi-regional distinction, but it is just as important that we endeavor to avoid seeing factions arise by the spirit and fury of party politics.
Finally, there's the father of our nation,
So,
George Washington.
who would I support in the president? I'm not sure what you mean by presidential race, sir. Do you mean the election?
Yes, sir.
Race. Can you imagine how lacking of any sort of virtue or dignity a race would have? We stand for elections, sir. We certainly don't run for it.
Ron Carnegie gives a striking portrayal of the man who could have been president for life, but chose a different path.
And that is that my name shall not be amongst the number from whom your choice shall be made. Very often when I'm talking to people at the end, somebody in that group will say, I wish President Washington was running today. There's no way a man like President Washington could be president today.
Because?
He is aloof. He's not friendly. He's not outgoing. He doesn't like to talk in public. And he doesn't want the job. And how are you going to become president today if you don't want the job?
Not a problem in 1800. John Adams very much wanted to keep the job. Thomas Jefferson wanted to take it.
Things are just as nasty in the 18th century as they are in the 21st. There are newspapers that call John Adams pretty awful things. And there were terrible things thrown in Jefferson's corner. There were New Englanders and New England newspapers that they were certain that if Jefferson was elected president, he would personally go into their homes and steal their Bibles.
John Adams lost that election and conceded.
Jefferson calls the election of 1800 the Second American Revolution. And it was precisely because, for the first time in this country, there was a change in political party at the very top of government, and it was peaceful. It was a peaceful transfer of power. That's powerful.
That had never happened before, but it set a precedent that lasted until our time.